What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
We are back. They let us back on the air in 2016. My name is Josh Reno with Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick. And, of course, it's time for us to do another show. This is a brand new take on our show. It's actually the same kind of show.
It's the exact same kind of show.
All right, so we're not changing things very much.
Yep. Well, we've gotten good feedback. 2015 was good. We had a couple, 3 months in there. People are going to the website, sending in questions and comments and interacting with us. I mean, it's been great.
Not only that, how many times did you get an email over the break whenever we had rerun shows asking where the new shows were?
Yeah, like they knew, right? They knew they had heard that before.
They were very upset with us for not doing new shows. Well, we got to take a little bit of time off, too, because we're trying to run a business.
That's true. Well,
you're trying to run a business. I'm trying to take your money.
Nice. Thanks, Josh. Yeah.
So 2016 is here, and we've got so much that's happening. For us, I know at Brightbox, which Brightbox Brand Marketing, by the way, is the sponsor of this segment. We have so many things to do coming up, and I mean, we are just booked up for right now.
Yeah, we've got great guests
2 weeks
coming up.
from now, though.
Maybe not so much.
That's right.
No, it's going to be a fantastic year. We've heard back from so many folks I've reached out to, guys that you have emailed in asking for certain people to be on the show. We're hearing it's just going to be a great lineup. I'm really excited about what this year has in store for us, and I just can't wait to bring you guys good topics and good guests. And some of those guests are going to be in studio today with us.
And you found everything that we did last year. You can find that at thehookradio.com. You can also go to our Brightbox online website. We just redid everything, and there's videos.
There's videos. There's
I have a video.
There's one of Josh. You guys can see him live.
That's my before video. After my New Year's resolution kicks in and I lose weight, then I'll have to have an after video.
We'll do a full,
be looking more svelte.
We'll do one out by the pool. Marketing tips by the pool.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. My wife doesn't even want that.
So come on now.
Do you have any resolutions? Anything?
Man, I'm not a big resolution guy. I think that's probably just because I know that come February, most people haven't done their resolutions, or they've given up on it. So I've never been a big. What about you? You got any resolutions?
I do have a resolution. I have a couple of them. I got to get back down to a weight that I was before I started
fight
work.
weight.
That's
yeah.
right.
All right.
So I got to lose 80 pounds. That's where my running weight was.
I don't think you're going to sweat that off. You're going to.
No. I'm definitely not going to do that. But I mean, I was down to that weight at some point. I lost a bunch of weight at 140 pounds, so I can lose 80 pounds
awesome,
again. That's
man.
not a big thing.
That's awesome.
And then I want to run a full marathon next year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, full. I've never done a full. I've done a lot of half marathons. Never done a full marathon.
Well,
so
pick one. Pick one, man. I'll do it with you.
I'll do the Houston. I mean, I'm good with that because
okay.
I've already done that. Duh.
It's nice and flat. That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
So those
cool,
are my
man.
resolutions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't have any personal ones. I guess from a business standpoint, I'll kind of make some goals that maybe we could call resolutions. I know one of them for me is I just want to get more educated on mobile apps. And I mean, I know how they're used and when you should use them and, how to instruct clients to use them as a marketing vehicle or as a sales or revenue generation tactic. But, just from a technical standpoint, I don't know exactly how they're developed, the programming, the language, when to use the Android or, iTunes library, all those kind of things. And so I'm just going to try to dive in a little bit more this year and figure some of that out. I think it's important, as the owner of a marketing firm that does them, right? I should probably know a little bit more about the technical side behind them. So I guess that's a resolution.
Are we going to do field trips? Are we going to have field trips to go over and find out more information?
I think this show is our field trip, right? We bring in the best of the best each week on relevant topics, and they get to come in the studio with us. I mean, that's...
that's a good idea. I mean, the mobile app kind of thing, that's always good to be ahead of everyone else whenever you're in marketing because you have to figure out what the next step is.
Yeah.
Well, and then the one after that.
Yeah, and I feel like from strategically, I'm right there, I'm ahead. But I'm a real detail oriented person. I like to know exactly how it's developed. I mean, we've got programmers on staff that'll write some scripts for mobile apps and stuff like that. But, I'm just going to make this year a little bit more intense.
And what's the reasoning? I want to know what's the reasoning behind having a new app for the same app. Okay, so the reason I say that is because whenever I did I'll explain. Whenever I did the half marathon 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, there was one app that you had to download and you could follow your runner and all that stuff. And then they updated the app. So instead of it just being an update to the app itself, you had to download a brand new app that was for the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, for the marathon. Correct.
Huh.
So I wonder why you wouldn't push the updates to update the app completely. Instead, you just started over from nothing.
That's interesting. I would bet that
For a
had
new
to do with
download.
somebody who owned the authorship or the script license for that first app changed. Maybe they partnered with somebody different, but that's odd. Our guest today, we have Leslie Wilson in studio with us with I Am Brands Interactive. He's kind of, over the years, I've always referred to him as my mobile contact, my mobile app guy. Anytime we're working on a project or we need to collaborate a little bit, I've called up Leslie, and he's got just a wealth of knowledge within that space. So I'm sure he could maybe help answer that.
Okay.
I don't know. That may be one of those mysteries. You always find these strange kind of difficult things to answer within spaces. So I like that. Josh, keep bringing it. You get I'm going to give you a gold star for today, a little sticker.
Thank you.
No stormy cloud stickers today.
Can I get
for
a
you.
green one, too? I like the green and the gold.
You're so
I
God.
don't know why.
Well, it's interesting with these apps as we were talking about them. We're going to talk a little bit with Leslie, but I find it so interesting because I hear so many horror stories, kind of like what you're saying. I had to re-download one, but I mean, the stories that I've heard from customers and clients that have tried to build apps or launch apps have just been unbelievable. Like, the thing doesn't work right, or it's not syncing up with the data. They had a spreadsheet of, information that they wanted to share or allow users to interact with. It's not syncing up correctly. But probably the biggest one is just like the scope creep. I think so many people don't know or don't fully understand the functionality of what they want their app to be before they get started, that they just kind of sit down with a developer and they're like, yeah, we want an app. And I don't know, maybe that developer doesn't take them through a real thorough process to really kind of unravel what it is they need or what they want. And then before you know it, the scope's gone out. They're 2 years into development and $50,000-$60,000 in the hole.
We talked to John Walton about this from Walton & Johnson.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that's
They
one of
had
the ones
an
I'm thinking
issue
about.
for 4 years with their app.
unbelievable.
They had this app company that was sold to another app company that went to a different. And so by the time they were done with it, they sunk a lot of money into it,
Yeah.
and it runs great now. It's a great app. I would say go and get that app for Walton & Johnson because I like those guys a lot.
Good guys.
But they put a lot of work in it and a lot of time and money into it on their side.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think the problem with that is because most app developments, even web development firms, they're run by and managed by developers, programmers, and they just think differently. They take instruction, they do it. They don't necessarily ask the questions to really pull out of you what it is you're trying to do, why you want to engage. And it's a bit of a plug here, but a great way to do that is with my book that I launched last year called The Brand Map. And this is specifically a book for, branding and building powerful brands, but the step-by-step guide will take you through any kind of like intricate marketing, tool that you're going to build. Will help make sure that you're clarifying who your audience is, who you are, how you want to talk to them, the words you want to use to talk with them, and what type of interaction and engagement you're looking for. So get a copy of that book, The Brand Map. You can go to Amazon or you can go to the website, thehookradio.com. But yeah, I think it's really tough because, it comes down to understanding your audience. How do you envision that audience using the app? It's not just saying we have one and, hey, I'm going to put my blog on it. I mean, it's got to be something a little bit more interactive than that, right? What is it worth to you to have this type of interaction? Think about that too. Before you go engage with a mobile development group, think about it from a budgetary standpoint. How much are you really willing to spend to have this type of interaction? And then do some research. Is that type of interaction even realistic? I mean, is anybody else doing it in any other vertical markets? I mean, I know we get requests from clients all the time asking for something, and it's like, well, look, that's kind of cool in your world, but the reality is nobody's going to interact or want to engage on a separate platform.
Are you wasting your money?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. We've done that so many times against our kind of direction or recommendations to the client. We've built things or tools for clients, and it just ends up flopping because in the client's head and their world, they're all about nuts and bolts, and they think everyone else is going to be all about nuts and bolts. And the reality is they don't want to have their own app for a bolt thing. right? So it's just being realistic about your audience and what they might want, I think will help divert some frustration. So we're going to talk more about apps with Leslie. I'm sure he's going to answer all these questions and give us tips on how to do that.
He's not the only guest today, though.
No, we've got a good one coming up next segment. He's joining us for our brand review. This next segment, we're going to talk about Playboy. Everyone knows about the Playboy brand. We're going to dissect a little bit with local artist and businessman Zach Barfus. He's going to be in studio with us. It's going to be a good one.
Excellent. That's Jason Arsmont, the Marketing Maverick. I'm Josh Reno. We'll be back on The Hook.
It don't matter what plans I got,
We are back on The Hook. They let us back on the radio this week. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday. My name is Josh Reno with Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with the Marketing Maverick. His name is Jason Arsmont. He's the guy that runs everything, also runs his show. And so he brings all his best friends in here.
Best friends, yeah.
Well, I think they're all your friends. I mean, my friends haven't been in here. Of course, my friends don't really have anything to talk about marketing-wise. So,
well, maybe one day we'll have one of yours just for fun. We'll have to do probably a lot of bleeping and all the profound language.
I'm not sure you would think it was that fun, but okay.
All right.
Whatever you want to do, bro.
We'll have to try one of those, a little dry run of that.
So our guest in studio right now, we have another guest later, but we have a one in right now. Why don't you introduce him for us?
Joining us for our brand review segment here. We're going to talk about Playboy, the brand, but thought we'd have somebody in the studio with us today to give his perspective with us. So today we've got Zach Barfus. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and let's talk some Playboy. Talk a little bit.
Yeah, I like it.
That's the only thing that you had to say to get him to come in, right?
Yeah, I said, hey, man, we're going to talk about Playboy. You down? He's like, yeah, I'm in.
When I had to tell my wife that I had to do some research on Playboy before the show, she looked at me with a crazy eye. But
well, this will be the proof, man. This will be the proof. Well, before we get into that, for those listeners who don't know, Zach's a local artist. You can go to artbyzach.com and check out his work. So tell us a little bit about the type of art that you do for those who don't know you.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of do a variety of things, but I guess a lot of people will point to it as pop art.
Okay.
So using a lot of shapes to do things like famous people. I do a lot of commission paintings of portraits of people's dogs. I just finished one of some famous athletes. I'm doing one for Von Miller at the time right now. So
it's cool.
I get some requests like that, but I also can do abstracts and landscapes. But I tend to favor a lot of people like my commission kind of wild paintings that are real bright and colorful and things like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, the use of color is what originally. So Zach and I met. I guess I was more of a fan. I stumbled across his site and really liked the work that he was doing. It was like, man, I love the use of colors here. It's vibrant. It's different, especially the ones where you do of portraits. And you've got a Marilyn Monroe and a Willie Nelson one on your website that I think are awesome. You guys got to go check these out on artbyzach.com. So when did you originally start doing art? I know this isn't something that just started all of a sudden, right? You've been doing art for a while now.
Yeah, well, I guess taking it way back, I was always a good drawer and colorer, I guess, early early age,
yeah. I had a little bit of that for a while.
I was good with the Crayola.
Yeah.
And then kind of, heading into college, crazy enough, we were talking about this earlier, I had ADD.
Yeah.
And I went to go see a psychologist because at the time you had to do like some sort of test in order to get the Adderall
be
pills.
approved for it. Yeah. Okay.
And we took all these tests, and I did really terrible in math.
You passed.
I did really terrible in math, but she said that I was off the charts with all these creative reasoning things. And she wrote in this document, if there's anything your son should do, she wrote this to my mom, I strongly recommend something in art.
Wow.
And at the time, I mean, I won like an art award in high school and things like that. But I mean, in school, you really don't take any. Yeah. So then fast forward to college, and I partied a little too hard my first 2 years and was about to drop out.
Nice.
My parents basically said, well, you're going to come home if you don't pull it together. You better do something that you like to do, because whatever you're doing right now, it's not working. So I chose art, and quickly found out from some of the teachers that I had something. And then eventually I gave it up after college. And then I started painting stuff for myself, and people started buying them off my walls.
right in the
Thinking-
house.
Yeah. So
It's a good
so
sign.
that kind of gave me a light bulb that, hey, maybe I should do this just to make some extra cash, and it's kind of blown up into this
yeah.
big
man.
thing now. So nonstop. I've had people wanting me to do commissions for about 2 or 3 years now
Wow.
without a break. So
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the stuff. I really encourage you guys to go check it out, artbyzach.com. Just it's beautiful work. It's reasonably priced, I think, for the quality of stuff that you're doing. Yeah, definitely reach out and connect with Zach if you've got some ideas on something you'd like. I like the commissionable aspect of it too.
You did this, Marley?
yeah, you like that?
That's
Yeah,
legit.
I think my
Josh, you're looking at the site.
my most popular paintings are probably the musician and the musical reference paintings.
I see the
Got some
Willie.
cool stuff on there.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of detail.
That's really good.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
telling
you.
you guys, you got to check this out. I wouldn't have brought him in here if he wasn't legit. I really fell in love with art years before we started talking and talking about having him come on the show. So I really encourage you guys to go check it out. Pay the guy his respects. This is great stuff, and man, I love it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little nudity.
Yes.
I guess a little Playboy time.
Okay.
a highlight of
Twist
my
my
week.
arm.
This is the one time I bring up a topic, and Josh, you don't look uncomfortable.
No, I'm really comfortable with this. Let's
Totally
take our
fine.
shirts off right now.
well, hold up.
Oh. Not us. Okay, never mind. Go ahead. Okay.
We're going to have all the people walking by the studio looking in. It's a different kind of show, real quick. This isn't Howard Stern, man. All right, so we're not just talking about Playboy because of the nudity. There's a big shakeup in what they're going to be doing as a company and as a brand. And I guess it was launched late last year that starting March, they're no longer going to even have nudity in the Playboy magazine. I guess online too. Have you heard any more about that, or what's your take on?
I'm not sure, but I know that currently right now when I visited their website, you have to pay to access their women. So there's no full nude. I don't know if that'll maybe change their pricing or maybe, because there's like a secretive section where you have to pay to access certain things.
So this is what I think is going on, because they've actually branched out into different areas, because you can do the interactive Playboy experience where you can talk to
Interactive?
Well, I'm pretty sure that you can talk to the models. There's also their own radio show. They have their own radio channel. They have a lot of different ways that they're reaching out with that provocative content
Okay.
and a way to see their women.
Right.
Okay, so maybe this is a way for them to just be a political statement.
Well, here's what it is.
I don't know.
So here's my take on it. So I did some research, and currently they're in only 39 countries out of the 195 around the world. That's only 18%.
Wow.
And there's one country that stood out to me, was Australia. Australia doesn't allow any publication of Playboy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or probably
Pretty
any nudity then, right?
Any
So,
nudity,
yeah.
yeah.
I
Okay.
thought that they did. I thought that they had no.
No.
Sneak it in or something, I guess.
I actually lived there for 6 months, and I found that out while I was there. But
Nice.
that's another story. But anyways, but what I think's happening, you've seen their readership. I think I've read a stat where they've gone from 5 million subscribers to 800,000, which isn't a lot. I also read that they lost $3 million in revenue in U.S. last year.
Wow.
So they use U.S. That their executives said they use it more of just a marketing tool. So they're not profitable in the U.S. So my first, and I also went to their shop online, and it's funny because 40% of their merchandise is sold in China, but China isn't published Playboy isn't published in China. So it's kind of
So
interesting.
their online store is doing better in China, even
Right.
though they don't have.
So things like
school publication.
shirts and fragrances and just merchandise, which is very surprising. 40% of all of their merchandise across
That's
the
a
globe.
huge. And you were saying what kind of revenue? They were up to like $1 billion at one point, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's
So
a huge machine to try to turn around. I know a lot of us probably just think of it as a magazine, but when you think of all those dollars, the power behind that Playboy brand to try to shift or change tides, I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I read that in 2009 or in 2000 they were a $1 billion revenue generating company. In 2009, I think they dropped all the way to, I think it was between 180 million to 300 million.
Wow.
Which is a huge, significant drop off. Did you know? And I think I saw that Hugh Hefner only owns about 30% of Playboy right now.
He sold
off
that stock quick.
60% of the stock. So he's not even the
majority.
You know, he's the brand champion. You know, so it'll
Still
be
drives
interesting
around with the girls.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see once he passes at some point to see where the brand goes.
I think that's a real question. What's y'all's take? I mean, when Hugh's gone, does Playboy continue or does it fizzle out? I don't see it.
I think it does, and I think it's going to take a complete rebrand, and I think that the person that's going to do it is going to be his daughter.
Wow.
Because his daughter has a pretty high-profile role with Playboy at this time.
Yeah. Well, you know, I just think like from a branding perspective, what made Playboy so relevant was that they jumped on, a social topic. It was a movement to, kind of bring sexuality to the forefront, and to just change that now to where they're not going to have it. It's like, well, what's the next movement for you? Because there's so many small brands that can pop up nowadays, especially online and in the digital world, that have a movement, that have a why. Simon Sinek on that YouTube video does a great job of talking about what is your why. And even with this announcement about they're not going to have nudity in the publication anymore, I still don't understand. I'm not getting what their why is.
Well, I back to what I was talking about. I think that probably their goal now is to try to move into those countries where they got kicked out of because of nudity. So maybe not having the nudity. And if you I went to their website and was shocked that, you go to the homepage and some of the titles of the different parts of the website, and there's no nudity whatsoever. So I think that they're trying to make it, work friendly to where people can visit the site without any issues of being blocked and things like that. There was I counted 48 articles, and none of them, I think 2 out of the 48 even talked about sex or even mentioned anything sexually. It was all like clickbait. So they're trying to get people to click on these.
Yeah.
It's almost like all these years we laughed about how, when someone said, why do you have Playboy or why do you subscribe? Say, oh, well, I buy it because of the articles. Well, now everyone buys it because it's for the articles.
Yeah, they don't have a choice now.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I just still, and I get that. I think, like, from a business standpoint, it makes sense to get into new markets. But then, like, we have Maxim, right? Maxim still seems to be doing okay, I guess, for what their space is. I'm still not like, I'm wondering what their movement or what their pursuit of publication is going to be. Like, I'm just not quite understanding.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. And my guess is that the brand fades out and just dies after
But
Hugh passes.
evidently it's not for the articles because they were a huge company just in 2001, as you said, and then they dropped down to, a third, maybe a quarter of what they used to be.
Right.
Well, it's because you can just
Well,
type something in and see
think about it
nudity
this
pictures
way.
now.
Well, I think a lot of it, when we talked about this before the show, is actually, porn being free online and being easily accessible. And I think also, have you visited Instagram lately? It's basically like a Playboy, edition. You can
Twitter's
hashtag
even worse.
everything. Yeah, Twitter. All these social medias.
Reddit.
You don't need to. Why would you buy a Playboy subscription? A subscription for a year of Playboy is anywhere from like $180 to $400, depending on what you want to do. Why would you do that when a lot of the stuff that you can get, a lot of the same types of photographs you can
those
find
articles
online.
are so good.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man. Well, not a typical brand review, but a brand review nonetheless. We'll ride this train. We'll see where Playboy ends up. I want to thank Zach for coming in studio with us, and we'll definitely have you back, man. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to come in and talk a little Playboy with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for those interested, check out artbyzach.com.
And that's Zach with an H.
Yes.
Good one.
That's
yeah.
what I was going to say.
Very
It's
good.
with an H. You got to make sure to put the H on the end. You can always find us on thehookradio.com. We'll be right back. Jason Arsmont. My name is Josh Reno. It's The Hook. You're listening to The Hook. You can always check us out online, thehookradio.com, for all our past interviews. And if you missed part of this one, this show that is, you can always come back to it. We post it all a Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, just a couple days following that weekend show. We'll have it up on thehookradio.com. Just click on radio. There's a full listing of all the shows that we've had in the past.
This is brought to you by Shadowbox Talent, who we've talked about quite a few times now.
Yeah, they're your go-to resource for HR outsourcing, whether it's staffing, recruiting, payroll processing. Maybe you just need help understanding, the new regulatory rules around, healthcare. They are a great source for that. They're the ones that we use. They are the reason why I had confidence in starting an HR outsourcing group, was because I was having struggles and issues with the 5 companies I started. And Gary and Callie Valentine over there just simply took all those struggles away. So
Along with Brooke. Brooke helps so much.
And Brooke, yeah.
Got to talk about her. So
yeah, so definitely check them out at shadowboxtalent.com. I'm excited about our rest of the show. We got 2 segments. I've got a great guy in studio with us. I've known for probably the past 5 or 6 years, and has really kind of been my go-to guy for understanding kind of technology, the mobile app world. He's just got a wealth of knowledge. So I know you listeners are going to really value from him. Plus, he's just a really solid business guy and just a great dude in general. So
sharp dresser.
Sharp dresser.
Thank
You can't
you.
get away from that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is true. I do like to dress accordingly. That's all.
Follow him on social media.
Just
You'll
saying.
be envious of the watch collection and the cigar times. And
Yeah,
man.
good
Yeah.
point. Good point.
Great guy. So who we're talking about here
Right.
is Leslie Wilson.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Leslie Wilson, CEO and founder of I Am Brands Interactive.
So smooth.
Oh,
So
yeah.
smooth.
I know,
I love
right?
it. Yeah,
Sure, you're right.
gosh. So you guys check them out. What's the website for
It is,
people that hear you and want to follow up?
Sure. It's I Am Brands, IAMBrandsInteractive.com.
Awesome. So let's maybe give a little bit of background, since I didn't talk too much about your business background here.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys do as a company and your background.
Sure.
What you guys do.
So we are a interactive and digital marketing agency. And people are like, what does that mean? And, at the end of the day, we came up with the term I Am Brands because I wanted to be, it's almost like an affirmation of who I am and what we're going to do. So when you start off with a company and it's 3 people, and I call it me, myself, and I.
Yeah, all 3 of you, huh?
Yeah, all 3 of us. Leaving corporate America and starting your own firm and go out on your own. Number one thing people ask, well, what made you decide to do that? And what does it take? And of course, the number one thing I said, it takes faith. It takes savings, credit cards, retirements, all those things to self-fund your business. So what I Am Brands does is that we kind of work into what we were talking about earlier, Jason, the pillars. We work on design, which is a user interface, user experience. We call the UI UX. And that's what makes someone goes to your site or to your mobile app and says, hey, I'm just the sheep here. You're the shepherd. Tell me what you want it to do.
Yeah,
so
lead
that's
me,
what
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So you get the call to actions on that. We do the branding, which obviously is a huge kind of broad term. But specifically, what we want to do is I tell people, if you have a website, if you have a mobile app, and you're not monetizing it, that means you're just putting something out there. My goal is, so how do you monetize? And that's by increasing your brand awareness and having a brand strategy to make sure that you're covering all the different areas out there, which could be social media marketing, internet marketing, mobile app marketing, all those areas. We are a bit of a technology firm, too, not a bit. We are a technology firm. My nickname, my tag name is I Am the Coolest Geek.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I Am Coolest Geek is my tag name, right? So
Yeah, and I
coolest
think-
geek you'll ever meet.
And on social media, too.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I used to do speaking engagements and presentation because I am the coolest geek. Because as Jason pointed out, I do like my cigars. I like to dress nice, and I'm 6'5", so I'm kind of go against the norm of what you call a geek.
Yeah, you're the most intimidating geek I've ever seen.
Exactly. I'm about 6'5", 270.
I don't think you'd fit in one of those geek
No,
cars.
no. That's why I'm the coolest geek.
That's
I'm not-
right. I love
Whenever
it.
I just walked in and met you, that's the last thing I would have said to you as you stood up. And
This is my NFL friend. Yeah.
Exactly. You should see the when I was working in Silicon Valley. So I used to work up there with one of the big companies and do presentations. And of course, with a name Leslie Wilson, a unisex name, people will come in thinking there's going to be this blonde, blue-eyed female, and then in comes this 6'5"
see it.
African American gent, and they were like going, "So, where did you play, or who did you play for?" And coming from you learn how to take that and go, okay, I understand my size, I get that. So what I did is I used to work at Exxon in engineering, so I said, well, I used to work for the Tigers. And they said I played for the Tigers, and they said, the Tigers, Detroit Tigers? I said, no, Exxon. And they look at me like, oh. I'm like, yeah. So you kind of go through all those different things. But yeah, technology is definitely part of what we do. So I'm very technical, but I come from the business side. So it's kind of, I have a kind of this, the hybrid left brain, right brain. Very
Right,
creative on one end, very technical. But I also have a very strong business acumen and a technical acumen. So I can talk to people about the business issues and figure out what kind of technology solutions we can do that.
And that's so difficult. We were just talking about that before, about how, most technical people, it's hard to get them to kind of, you got to translate for them almost, right? Like we say something like, in normal layman's terms or whatever, and they just don't get it. They're like, I need the direction, not the explanation or something.
No, you're right. It's a process. I mean, I'm looking around here and I'm looking at these whiteboards, what I used to call, and I go into geek mode. And people are like, what do you mean? I said, so sometimes when it's a technical solution, I said, just point me out to a whiteboard and let me get going, and I can kind of draw it out. But before I get to that point, I said, well, let's talk a little bit about your business issues and problems, so we can see what type of technology solutions. Because we are architecturally agnostic, so we have I work in Microsoft ASP.NET. We work in Cocoa. We work on. See, I'm going into geek mode right now.
Yeah,
we're going to all these different technology platforms because we don't want to push technology on people. We don't want to push, an agenda. Microsoft, Java, all these different platforms, and now open source is real huge now. So we do a lot of those things right there. So our pillars are design, branding, technology, and then, of course, mobile apps, which we're going to talk about, which, we started the original company, I Am Mobile Apps. As you can see, I got a thing about I Am. And that we basically blended that company into what we're about to evolve into now, which is I Am Brands Consulting, which kind of goes full circle in my career after I
Back to
left.
Consulting
It
side,
really does. I mean, I started out, a lot of people want to know, how did you get in technology? My undergrad is accounting finance. So I spent the first couple of years on Wall Street. I was a trader.
Wow. Okay.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there you go. So I was a securities
layers
trader.
here, yeah.
Those are the layers. So I went from there, and then I came back to Houston, and I worked at Exxon. And Exxon, you have business people coming in working in engineering. So you're saying, okay, I didn't have an engineering background or degree, but I had enough knowledge of how to. So we built Exxon gas stations back then.
Okay.
So they had the pricing, the market, and then Exxon would send you on these rotations. So I would tell people, when you're working in corporate America, get all the training you can, because they would send me all over the world, and I was building stations, learning different things. And the last rotation was in technology. And so that's what kind of kicked off my technology side of it. Then I went to the Coke Industries. The Koch brothers out of Wichita, which, if anybody been to Wichita, it's like the black monolithic building in the middle of the cornfield.
Yeah.
So once again, I'm going up to Wichita, and I feel like I'm working with the children of the corn. Oh, it was crazy. Yeah, it was everybody had the same look.
Yeah,
and then I was with a bald head brother with a goatee.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there like, wow, this is different. But I got to meet Charles and Bill Koch and understand market-based management, and largest private-owned firm at that time, and I think they maybe still are. And then from there, I transitioned to Enron.
Oh, man.
Which was the ultimate Shark Tank. I mean, it was, but it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
So you start to build up this kind of
professional confidence, right?
But you do. I mean, every year they chop the bottom 10%.
Yeah.
So when you get the bottom 10% of people who are coming from Ivy League schools, I'm a proud graduate of Stephen F. Austin University, East Texas, Nacogdoches, and I'm going against the guys from Harvard and the guys from Yale, but every year I'm going up this way, and some of them are getting cut.
Wow, yeah.
So it didn't come down to your academia; it just came down to your drive and passion.
Yeah, and your prowess.
To kind of do that. And then once I left Enron, I did a couple of stints in the dot-com world. I told someone I have $20 million worth of worthless stock options and papers sitting in my office, but had it gone at that time, I would have had a couple of $20 million to do some things with, and then went into consulting. So it's kind of a full spectrum of coming from the business world and then transitioning into the technology world.
So what was it, that defining moment? We have a lot of entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs listening. What was the defining moment for you to go out on your own, leaving these big corporations? I mean, that's got to be scary.
You know what it was? I used to, when I worked at those companies, I used to call myself an intrapreneur. And they would look at me like, what do you mean by that? So when you do performance reviews And sometimes you think it's about performance, but we all know there's some subjectivity in there. And so you're sitting there like, I'm doing you're saying my numbers are great, but you didn't smile to so-and-so. And he said that he noticed that you don't smile a lot, or you don't do this, like, but am I performing? Well, yeah, your performance is great, but you have to. So I'm like, okay. So I just got into this mentality that my Social Security number was basically I was just a small entity within these large companies.
Yeah.
And my goal was to perform or outperform what the measurables are. So I went to each one of these places with that mindset. And I knew at some point in time I was going to be my own boss. I just didn't know when.
See, yeah, you had that.
I had that.
In the back of the mind, you had that drive, that passion to do your own
But
thing
that
too.
started, but I tell people all the time, that started when I was 12 years old.
Yep.
When I was, people thought I was 16 because at that time I think I was 6 feet tall. So I was working jobs. So I was flipping pizzas.
It's a bouncer at a
Exactly,
bar.
I know, right? A bouncer at the bar. I was at, I remember working at McDonald's with pants that came up halfway up to my knees because they didn't have anything to fit me, and sacking groceries.
Yeah.
But by the time I was 18 years old, I had $10,000 in my investment account.
Man.
And people are like, investment account, why not savings account? I said, because back then we didn't have the technology. So
Right.
I would have to literally, get to the business page and go through 5 or 10 pages, swipe through them to look at the stocks. And that's how I got into stock trading, because my dad said, pick out places that you like and then follow that stock, which McDonald's was one of them at the time. And so I did that and ended up having $10,000 in my investment account. So that's how I started.
Cool. That's cool. So long-standing burning desire to want
You got
to
it.
make business for himself. Well, awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We've got Leslie Wilson here with us. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about mobile apps.
Yeah, we got more coming up next on The Hook. You found The Hook Radio. Also online, thehookradio.com. We've got a great guest in studio. That's Jason Arsemont right there, the marketing maverick. My name is Josh Reno, and there's too much talking going on off
Yeah, that was a
air.
long break. That was a long break. Well, we got the coolest geek in here with us, Leslie
Exactly.
Wilson.
Thank you, sir.
Check him
Thank
out online. What's social media? Do you like people go there, or your website? What's the best way for people to get in touch?
I do Instagram. I have a Twitter account, but I don't really use it as much, which is so interesting. I'm more of a I am the coolest geek on Instagram is probably the best way.
Cool.
And then we have I Am Brands Interactive. We do have a Facebook fan page. The same thing with I Am the Coolest Geek as well. So, but I Am Brands Interactive face page is the
Probably
Facebook
the
page is
spot.
probably the spot to
all
get
right,
me.
all right.
If you want to see all my cigar and watch collections, though, you got to go to Instagram.
They're on point. Tell you
Just
what,
saying.
you're gonna have a hard time keeping up.
Just saying.
Some nice sticks, man. I'm always getting outside and I'm back porch getting ready to smoke a cigar, and I look over, I'm like, man, he's got the latest Gurkha. He's got whatever, you know?
What? I just thought about this new app I have
Uh-oh.
coming out that I will bring up. I just realized
Well, actually,
that.
I got something else I need to show you.
All right, go ahead.
As soon as we get out of
I'm
here.
creating. Okay.
All right, so let's talk a little mobile app. We got
I know.
two business owners, man. We can't hold ourselves back. Let's talk a little mobile apps.
Sure.
I was talking before about I probably hear more horror stories about people who got into doing a mobile app. And I'm curious from your standpoint, do you hear a lot of that? Do you guys get people that come to you like, hey, we've been trying to do this for a year or two, we can't get it off the ground? Or
We get so many people who've had bad experiences
Yeah, I
with
bet.
mobile apps, and I call it I guess it's that kind of the battered spouse syndrome, because they literally come to me all beaten and bruised, and they're like, "Are you going to do us like they did? Are you going?"
I'm not
like,
him,
"No,
baby. I'm not him."
there." Yeah, slow your roll. That's not me. I put the Barry White voice on them.
you gotta slow it down. Yeah.
Show you right. And so no, but it's interesting that when we talk to them, a lot of it is you are dealing with the emotions of folks, and what we have to do is we have to take that emotion and get requirements out of it.
Right.
And I tell anybody this: the number one thing that we're very big on is scope and requirements, because
Yeah.
I find that once you get past that emotional hurdle, now you have to deal with the fact that people after 4 to 6 weeks, we call it technology amnesia.
Right.
And so what I like to do is I say, well, let's bring up the scope of work to make sure that what you agree to and sign off on is consistent with what we're presenting. And you will have folks who all of a sudden, and you understand the scope creep.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. We just talked about that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the first
So
segment.
you get scope creep, and then they're like, well, I want this, I want this. I'm like, but that's outside of the scope of work, so we're going to have a change agreement to do that so that we're all on the same page.
Right.
So we have to manage those kind of expectations. So you get the initial expectation of we had a bad incident with someone before, and then you sign them and you go through that.
Yeah.
And then the next piece is once you get the agreement, now it's like, okay, here's what we're presenting. And what we like to do is we like to show you, it's like building a house. We want to show you the house being built throughout the entire process. I'm not
Right,
going to wait
right.
8 weeks and go, here you go. And they go, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
So
right.
our process, we have a methodology, which comes from our
Whoa.
consulting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. All
I
right.
do have a methodology.
Roll it out.
It's the
How does
4
that, so how's that
Ds.
go? Uh-oh.
Define, design, develop, deploy.
Okay. I like that.
So on the define side, that's where we get all the scope. That's where we get all the requirements. And that's where people like, oh, okay, I got everything. You're good with this. We go back and forth. It shows the assumptions. It shows the limitations so that everybody agrees to that. We then transition to the design phase. And when we do that, we do wireframes. So we do wireframes first. And the wireframe is just basically imagine someone getting a piece of paper out and just drawing out exactly what they want.
Okay.
And so
It's like
what we
step by step?
Step by
Okay.
step.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
screen by
Right.
screen, we will wireframe it. And I tell people, I said, think of it once again as you build a house, you put up the frame. We haven't put in the sheetrock yet. We haven't done any of the plumbing. We haven't done any painting. We just got the frame up. So that wireframe shows you kind of the skeletal system of the app that we're
Right.
going to create. And it may show 8 screens. It may show 20 screens based on your requirements. But before we move to actually designing it, i.e. going to Photoshop or Illustrator to create the design files, we get a write-off, that sign-off that, yes, these are
That's
the
what- yeah.
wireframes that we want. Then we take those wireframes and then we create a mock-up. And that's where we take the first maybe several screens and we actually design them. We put a coat of paint on them. So we get the color, the look, and
Bring it
feel.
to life a
Bring it
little
to
bit, yeah.
life, exactly.
Okay.
And now once you get all those done, now we're at the point where we finish up the design phase. And before we start any development, we get sign off on that phase. Because once again,
Everyone's on the same page.
everyone's on the same page.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
we're not adding or taking away any new designs, and
Right.
then we can start development.
Yep.
Now that's when the question comes up: what do you develop in? Do you develop native? You do cross-platform?
Does it really matter? I mean, I guess maybe the functionality does, but you know,
It
I heard
does.
so many people ask me that before, and I'm like, well, you know, kind of like you were saying, a little being agnostic is probably best, but is there a right or wrong way to build
It's
something?
interesting. So people ask, they say, "Well, I want an iPhone app," and I'm like, "What? You know?" So
Why?
I ask the question is why,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Because they think
Yeah.
it's almost like a brand. It's a brand name, right? So
Yeah.
people say iPhone or I want an Android, but 90% of people say I want an iPhone app, and I say, "So do you want a mobile app that renders on an iPhone and an Android?" And they're like, I want an iPhone app. I'm like, okay, let's back this up a little bit.
Yeah.
When I asked that question, I said, there's a reason behind the question. Because if I ask if you want an iPhone app, then that means you want a native app. And so does your functionality need to have the native, app functionality? Back that time, it was geolocation. It's all different kind of specs when your phone is moving around.
Right.
So does it need specific native app functionality, or do you just need a mobile app that can go across multiple platforms?
Or maybe just a mobile site.
all mobile.
I run into that a lot.
So
It's like you don't
to
even
your
need
point,
an app.
You don't even need an app.
Yeah.
Some people like the ideal of downloading apps from an app store,
Right.
and increasing their brand out there. So we do have where we do responsive web. So
Yep.
you got the responsive web where the site renders on your smartphone like it looks like a mobile web app. So you have different versions of it, but I try to move people to cross-platform because
Okay.
you got one source code. So if
Gotcha.
you do a cross-platform app, then when we build it for iPhone, we can also build it for Android as well, unless it's something specific that they need a native iPhone
Right.
app for. Because the cost is significantly higher for a native app than it is for a cross-platform.
So what do you think, real quick, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have of building an app or having an app?
The biggest misconception I've seen is timeline and managing that expectation of that.
Like how long it's going to take to build?
Right.
Okay.
So we say we can build this in 8 weeks, but that implies, based on you providing us input,
the client's not going to slow you down.
Yeah, exactly. So we can build it
Yeah.
in 8 weeks,
Yeah.
but if it takes you 6 weeks to get back to us on
Yeah.
content, then that's when we have an issue. And I think what I've done to kind of remedy that is that you understand this. We use Basecamp. I don't know what you guys were using. I think y'all were using.
We built our own CRM.
You built your
in
own
the past.
system at the right. We use that.
But we've played with Basecamp. It's good.
Right,
Yeah,
it's a former consultants. They came together and created a project management collaboration tool. I got away from using just plain send me an email or text message because
we gotta track
there's you got to track and no accountability. And so when we use Basecamp, all the files are uploaded there, all the communications are held there. So now we're managing expectations in real time. There's none of this, you got to wait 6 weeks to see something. But we're saying, hey, if you want to meet this timeline, you have to provide this input and this content. It may be images that they want.
Right.
So that's kind of the biggest issues that we've seen come across.
Yeah, this is just a wealth, and we're going to have to extend this to another show at some point and talk a little bit more about this. But I hope what you guys are hearing in Leslie's voice and what he's talking about is a difference of approach that he takes to all business. It's more technology consulting and making sure that you have a purpose and a reason behind why you're building something and spending money on it. I encourage you guys to go online, check out his website, hunt him down if you're in the need of, maybe somebody just looking at your workflow and seeing how maybe you could digitize that or turn it into a technology process rather than just an Excel spreadsheet or some, a clipboard that you carry around. His name is Leslie Wilson. He is the coolest geek, and you guys go check him out online. Yep.
Oh, I just want to say one thing, though. We were talking about cigars earlier, and I'm a big cigar aficionado. So I came up with an app called the Pairing app.
Okay.
And for those who understand, you can pair a cigar with a beer, wine, or spirit. So
Yeah.
this huge database of information of cigars and all these different groups, and we try to help people in the process to pair there so
Man,
they got
all right.
the right notes. And then we just finally got our daily fantasy sports app, Fill and Kill, approved 2 weeks ago. I'm excited about that because it took us 5 months to fight the Apple
Okay.
after all the FanDuel,
Yeah,
DraftKings
yeah.
things. So that's been great. And now the last one was called Replicate Pro, which I built it for me because I lose my phone. As you can see, I have multiple phones in here. But I always tend either lose them, damage them, or whatnot, and I can't get to my contacts. So we created this app that actually acts as a secondary app so that if you had another phone, if I picked up Josh or your phone, I could just download the Replicate app, pull up my
Nice,
contact
yeah.
information, and still be able to make calls, receive text messages.
Kind of stores it all on a cloud, on an app.
It stores all in
Man,
the cloud.
that's cool.
So I like to build apps for other people. I like to build them for myself and the
solving
company.
the problems of the world.
I'm
I love
trying.
it. See?
One app at a time.
One app at a time. I love it. Well, man, thank you so much for coming in this week and being with us. Like I said, we'll definitely have to have you back. I'm sure we'll get our listeners asking lots of questions. Check him out online. That's Leslie Wilson, the coolest geek.
And if you missed any of this interview or anything that we went over today, you can always catch that at thehookradio.com. We'll be back again next week. That's Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick. My name is Josh Reno for The Hook.
It doesn't matter what I say.